So when we first got our Explorer ST, we attacked the suspension, a difference that you could feel. Now it's time to give you a difference that you can see. And we're gonna tell you exactly how to get the perfect wheel and tire fitment on your Ford Explorer. So this is what you get from the factory with your 2025 Explorer ST. It's a 21-inch wheel and tire package. The tire is going to be a 275, 45, 21. What that means is the width of the tire is 275 millimeters wide. 45 is the aspect ratio, which is the percentage of the width that you're going to have on the sidewall, and 21 being the diameter of the wheel. Now, the width of this wheel from the factory is a 9-inch wide wheel. It's one of the reasons a lot of customers like to put wheel spacers on their Explorers if they're maintaining the factory wheel. Another dimension that is commonly found on the wheels is going to be the back spacing or the offset. Now, that can be found on the back side of the wheel. It's usually casted right into the wheel itself. Now, what that's going to tell you is how far the wheel is going to stick out or be tucked in based off of the back machine face there of your wheel. Obviously, if you have something with more of an offset, a negative offset, it's going to be sticking the wheel further out. Now, these factory wheels, they're going to be a 37.5 offset. Now, that's also in millimeters. It's going to show you how far out the wheel is. Now, what do all these numbers mean? Well, it means if you're going to end up changing the wheel and tire package on your vehicle, you're going to want to know these things so that you can pick out a proper wheel and tire package to meet your needs and desires. So if you want something that sits a little bit more flush and you don't want to run wheel spacers, you're going to try to find a wider rim or something that has more negative offset to try to get it nice and flush. Also, the numbers on the tires, what that's going to do is it's going to tell you the overall height of your entire package. Say you don't want to tune your Explorer. Well, you're going to try to look for another wheel and tire combination that has the same overall height. What that does is it's going to make sure that your speedometer is not thrown off by 5 or 10 miles an hour because you went to a much smaller or taller wheel package. So these numbers are very important. We got all the calculators to help you figure it out. So let's go ahead and see what kind of options we came up with for our 2025 Steeda Explorer ST. So now before you jump into Aftermarket Wheels and you're just looking for maybe a little bit better of a look, wheel spacers can give you that look that you desire. Now, we've got a full video breaking down all the different wheel spacers and how they look. But if you check out the screen right now, you'll see the two most popular options for your Ford Explorer. One's going to be 25 millimeter or 1 inch. The other option is going to be 1.25 inches. Now, with the 1.25 inches, it is going to stick the wheels out ever so slightly past your fenders. But the one advantage to the 1.25 inches is you don't have to trim your factory wheel studs. With the 25 millimeter wheel spacer or 1 inch, you're going to have to trim your factory wheel studs about 1/16 of an inch. Now, I know what everybody's thinking. Oh my goodness, it's crazy. We're only talking 1/16 of an inch here. We're not talking about 1/2 inch or anything like that. So keep in mind, The two options, 25 millimeter, give you a nice flush fit, or 1.25 inch, and it's gonna stick them out a little bit, but you don't have to trim your factory wheel studs. Now, keep in mind, when you go to install your wheel spacers, you're gonna wanna torque them to 150 foot-pounds, and then go ahead and torque your wheels on as well, but make sure you check them after the first 100 miles to make sure everything is nice and tight. So this is the beauty of aftermarket wheels. You could really personalize your vehicle. In fact, one of the first things I always do whenever I get a vehicle is to change the factory wheels. You want to make it unique. You want to make it your own. Not only do aftermarket wheels typically weigh less, but they're going to fill up the fender well better, and they come in a variety of styles, colors, and different options. But it's really one of those things that helps you set your vehicle apart from the rest. Now, one of the cons is aftermarket wheels are typically going to run you a lot more money, but keep in mind, if your tires are starting to wear out, that's typically a good time to look at some aftermarket wheels, especially if you're looking to go from, say, a 19 to a 20, or in this case, a 21-inch Explorer wheel to a 22-inch Velgen. It's something that can easily be done at that point in time. Plus, you could always sell your stock wheels and tires or keep them for when you might eventually trade in your vehicle a couple years down the road. So let's take a look at what we ultimately decided to go with. We went with a set of Velgen VF10s that are 22-inch. Now the factory was 21-inch, but we wanted to fill up the fender gap, and let's face it, you have more tire sizes available with the 22-inch. Now, because it's an Explorer, you have the same size wheels on all four corners. The factory were 21 by 9-inch with a 37.5 offset. These are 22 by 10.5 with a 30 offset. Because of the additional width, we can run a different offset while still trying to get it nice and flush to the outside of the vehicle without having to use any wheel spacers. So what does all that mean? Basically speaking, with the additional width of the wheel and the proper offset, we're able to match the existing style of a factory wheel with a 25 millimeter wheel spacer, which is going to bring it out and try to get it flush with the fender. Now, you don't want to come too far out, because then you're going to look like an F-150 or an F-250, and you're going to be slinging dirt and grime all over the side of your Explorer, which you don't want to do. But with the wider wheel, with the 30 offset, it's basically going to mimic a factory wheel with a 25 millimeter wheel spacer. Now keep in mind, this is what we went with, the 22 by 10.5. Now there's other options out there that are still 21-inch overall height, like the factory wheel, that are 10 inches wide and things like that. But this is a package that we put together that we know fits this Explorer extremely well. It's going to provide good performance and no rubbing. So while there are other options with maybe that are 10 inches wide or 21 inches tall, the biggest thing is making sure that you keep that offset correct. So if you go with something that's 10.5, you're going to want to be in the 30 offset. If you go back to a 10, you're going to want to be closer to the factory, which is around a 38. But we haven't been able to try every wheel and tire, but if you get in this range here, you're going to have a great looking and fitting wheel and tire package. Now, one of the beauties of aftermarket wheels, besides the great looks, is they also can offer significant weight savings. In fact, even though the wheel is physically bigger, it offers these really slick spoke designs that are going to save weight. In fact, we've seen weight savings of almost 60 pounds just by changing your wheel and tire package. So one thing you gotta remember about Steeda is we're just not a parts manufacturer and a retailer, but we're a company full of performance enthusiasts. Glenn Vitale races, you got me heading up the drag program, and well, this is Dario, our owner's personal baby. So when it came time to selecting the right tire package, We wanted to make sure it's perfect. He drives this vehicle all the time. So by increasing the wheel diameter from a 21 inch to a 22 inch, we had to make sure we try to maintain our comfort level. And by doing so, you want to make sure that the sidewall of the tire is almost equal, but not too far off because you're dealing with a wheel that's an inch taller. Once again, it's going to throw off the speedometer. So with the factory aspect ratio, you end up with a sidewall height of 4.87 inches. With the new Nittos, they're coming in at a 285/40/22. That's going to give us a sidewall height of 4.48 inches. So we're right there. So by maintaining almost the same sidewall height as factory, it's going to give us the best ride and comfort. Now, a lot of people online, they go to a 305/35. So while the tire's wider, the aspect ratio is less. That's going to come in at only 4.20 inches worth of sidewall. So now you're looking at a ½ inch on the top and the bottom. We didn't want that. We didn't want to ruin the ride of this exceptional vehicle. Let's face it, it's an ST. It already comes with a little bit more firmness in the suspension. Lower down on Steeda springs, the last thing we wanted to do was ruin Dario's daily by throwing on 305/35s, because like I said, that's a ½ inch on each side. So a total of a whole inch worth of sidewall. That's a difference you can feel. Now, maybe you're into more spirited driving and the ride doesn't affect you. Well, that'd be a good time to go with those 305s. But with a vehicle that spends a lot of time going from Valdosta down to South Florida, we wanted to make sure Dario had the absolute perfect ride, because this is what we do. We live and breathe Ford vehicles, and we knew that this tire was going to give us exactly what we wanted. So for the tires, like I said, we went with the 285/40/22. Now I reached out to our good friends at Nitto because they offer an NT 420 V-Series tire. Now this tire is known for luxury SUVs and trucks because of its exceptional ride quality. In fact, it's the same tire that we put on the majority of our Steeda Thunders. But the key point is the overall height comes out to 30.9 inches tall, where the factory is going to be 30.7 inches. So we're super close to make sure that the speedometer is not off by very much. But if it's something you're worried about, we offer tunes for that. So you can adjust your overall tire height, which is going to be calculated in revolutions per mile. So what that is how many revolutions that tire makes in a mile. That's how you'd adjust your speedometer. But with these being super close, we're not worried about it being off, but just a couple miles an hour. Now I know there's a whole population of people out there that think your tire sizes need to start with a 3, otherwise you're not a man. Well, you could run the 305s and even the 315s, but keep in mind, if you go to a 305/40 series and what you're trying to do is maintain a quality ride, you're gonna end up with some rubbing issues in the front of your Explorer. Now, if you were to drop it down from a 305/40 to a 305/35, it's not going to rub, but once again, you're reducing your sidewall height. Now keep in mind, it's not just the width of the tire. Like we explained earlier, it's also going to be the offset. So you might end up running just a 10-inch wide wheel, but if the offset isn't proper and it's tucking the tire into the fender, you can still end up with rubbing issues. As you can see, we came up with a wheel and tire combination that we feel fits this Explorer absolutely perfect. Now, if Belgians aren't your taste, make sure you hit up Steeda.com, where we've got a variety of other wheel and tire combinations designed to fit your Explorer absolutely perfectly. Don't forget, if you want to keep your factory wheels, we got a bunch of different wheel spacers designed for your Explorer to give you that look and fitment that you desire. So hit like, Subscribe, follow us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and remember, Steeda, where speed matters.